There's a strange incident that repeats itself several times throughout the story of our patriarchs and matriarchs. Avraham and Sara end up in Egypt due to a famine. And when they get there, Avram's worried that the Egyptians are going to kill him in order to marry beautiful Sarah. So he asks her, please, let's pretend that you're my sister. That way, I'll be able to survive, and they'll even give us presents. They'll do kindness towards us. Sarah ends up being taken to the palace of Paro, and she's abducted there only due to miraculous assistance from Hashem is she returned. The same basic story happens when they're strangers, they're newly arrived in Gerar, modern-day Gaza. Again, Avram pretends that Sarah is his sister. She gets taken to the king's palace and is freed only due to intervention from Hashem. And then a third time, in our Parsha, Yitzchak is taken away. He pretends that his wife is his sister. Eventually, the ruse is discovered, and Avimelech is very angry at him. The king of Gerar, Avimelech, is angry and says, something terrible could have happened. I may have taken Rivka to my palace, abducted her, abused her, etc. And the question is, how could our forefathers put their wives in such danger for their own safety? I want to present a number of answers and hopefully learn some lessons from them. Answer number one. Avraham and similarly Yitzchak were using a delaying tactic. What they assumed was it would take a long time to discuss. People might come forward, say, I'd like to marry Sarah. They would discuss it back and forth. And by the time the agreement was close to being made, Avraham and Sara would disappear, and that would be the end of it. What they didn't anticipate is that Sarah would be immediately abducted and taken to Paro's palace. A second answer. You're right. The question is correct. Avraham and Yitzchak should not have done this. It was a mistake. The Ramban says it was a terrible mistake. A third point. Everything that happens to us, to the Jewish people, was foretold or prepared by our ancestors. Our fathers and mothers went through different experiences in their lives so that it would be better when we had to go through something similar. Sarah's experience in Mitzrayim and being abducted mirrors the Jewish people being slaves. Later on, Paro experiences plagues until he lets Sarah free. The same thing happened later with the Jewish people. Yitzchak and Rivka go back to the place where Yitzchak's parents had previously been, in Gerar. In a later exile, the Jewish people go back to Avraham and Sarah's original home place, Ur-Kasdim, which was then in the Babylonian Empire, the second exile, the Babylonian exile. And just as Yitzchak and Rivka come out on top, Rivka is safe, and Yitzchak becomes a major successful businessman. He's very prosperous. They get a good name, and he establishes himself in Gerar. So too, the Jewish people in Babylon would not be treated badly. Although initially they were very afraid of the Babylonian exile, but they were treated well, similar to Yitzchak originally being afraid that he would be killed, but it ended up good. And the fact that things worked out for us was because Yitzchak and Rivka prepared the way for us. Let's look at it more, perhaps in a mystical light and self-help. Whenever we are dealing with an internal problem, there are several aspects, several approaches. Number one, we can't fix the problem. We can't make it good, perhaps, but at the very least, we could defend ourselves from it. So let's give the example. If you're having difficulty with keeping on task, always jumpy, bit of ADD, running around, not able to stay still, no. The first step is I'm going to find a way to keep my concentration. I'm not going to let this disturb me. Okay, so you're blocking the problem. The second step is to find a way that it has somehow helped you. You may have discovered new ways to concentrate because of your jumpy nature. So it's actually made you able to focus better. But then the third and highest way is when you use out the problem itself for something beautiful. If you're always on the move, then do good. Running around doing kindness for others. That is the third and highest level. With Avraham and Sara in Egypt, all they could do was block Paro. The next time around, Avraham and Sara in Gerar, they were able to not only block the problem, but create some benefit. Shortly after this story, this incident, Sarah becomes pregnant after so many years and they have a baby. And the Medrash and Kabbalah teaches that this happened because of the experience of Avimelech. That because they went through that, they were afterwards blessed with a child. Or to put it in other words, that they were able to, it gave them a certain physicality, materialism, and then they were able to become parents. So we're moving from seeing a problem as it simply seems, as a problem that needs to be defeated, like Avraham and Sarah's approach with Paro, to something that could give some sort of improvement or some sort of benefit, like with Avraham and Sara in Gerar, where actually afterwards something good happens, they have a baby for the first time, to with Yitzchak and Rivka, where not only something else good happens afterwards, but this problem itself is actually not just a problem, but it's something which is a gift, and it just has to be discovered. Yitzchak actually becomes successful in Gerar after and due to what they perceived as a problem, but there was actually no problem there. Everything was fine, and they just had to go out and develop the blessings. One final thought. We normally think, normally it's described that we talk about, he takes care of me well. We talk about the husband defending, protecting his wife. But with the patriarchs and matriarchs, there was actually a different dynamic at play, where the matriarchs were the ones who, due to their spiritual power, were the ones to defend, protect their husbands. And that is another explanation in this strange story. We find Avraham being scared he'll be killed, whereas with Sarah's not scared. You know why? Because she had that spiritual power that she was going to be fine. And not only that, due to her, Avraham would be safe and even benefit, be rewarded. The same with Yitzchak and Rivka. Rivka would be fine due to her great spiritual powers. Yitzchak was worried and he wanted Rivka's protection. And therefore we find, unlike usual, where the husband may go out to fight to protect his wife, here we have it the other way around. The husband saying to the wife, Sarah, Rivka, you go out, encounter, fight the Paro, the Avimelech of your times, and you will protect us. So that's one more thought. In summary, we've got a few explanations to this strange episode of Avraham and Yitzchak pretending that Sarah and Rivka were respectively their sister instead of their wife. Number one, they thought this was a delaying tactic and then they'll get away before anything happens. Number two, it was a bad mistake, a terrible mistake. Number three, going through these experiences helped the Jewish people get through the exiles intact. Paro was preparing for the Egyptian exile, and Gerar with Yitzchak especially, was preparing for the Babylonian exile. Then we explain how there's 3 levels in perceiving a problem. Number 1 is a problem that has to be negated. Number 2 is something that may have some benefit. And number 3, it's not a problem, it's actually something good. We just have to uncover that. Finally, we noted that to our forefathers, our patriarchs and our matriarchs, it was the matriarchs who were able to go out and protect their husband with their spiritual powers. Wishing you all Shabbat Shalom. May we be able to see our problems as opportunities and realize the immense spiritual power of the women around us.